Welcome to the Org Design Podcast. You've got Amy and myself, Tim Brewer, co-host today, and we're joined by Tom Douglas. Tom joins us from the Midwest USA, Springfield, Missouri. Tom is the CEO and founder of JMARK, a company there in the Midwest. They do IT services, well in excess of 100 people. And Tom, congratulations. You just became one of the Midwest's best places to work. And I saw online that you just won the award, so congratulations. But today we wanted to see a little bit behind the scenes or hear about your journey as it relates to org design with your organization. So welcome to the show, and we can't wait to hear you share.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on. It's a privilege.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So Tim mentioned CEO of JMARK out of Missouri. Mm-hmm. We know you've grown that business from 6 to 126 people. Tell us about how you then got into org design and how that role in the growth.
Yeah, I mean, you get thrown into the mix. I mean, it's not something that you want to do. It's not something that you think you're going to have to do. But as the business grows, you realize that you need different pockets of expertise and different sets of responsibility in the environment. And if you don't change the way that the organization serves the different parts of the company, then and ultimately your customers, then the company breaks down. I think what we have realized over the years is that the number one reason that businesses break down is because they don't do a good job handing information or workflow from team 1 to team 2 to team 3 to team 4. And if you don't have a good organizational design that has clear responsibilities and expectations and upstream and downstream respect, then the company falters. And we have such a high degree of pride associated with what it means to deliver our promises to our customers that we just couldn't afford to take a chance on things not working out. And so when I had the chance to meet with Tim, and we worked together for a long time, but he helped me to orchestrate an orchestra of workflow inside the organization that has really evolved into an environment where our team has not only a respect and an appreciation for what we describe internally as upstream and downstream. So how does work come to us, and how do we hand work off? It's become such a point of pride within our organization. It's like I can't do a disservice to my teammates by handing them bad information or bad workflows. I respect my team, and so I want to hand it off well. And as a result of that, you have to get really clear on what handing information off well is or work product is. And if you hand somebody good product versus bad product, it makes the entire difference of the success of the company. And that has resulted in massive acceleration in the business.
Yeah. Tom, that sounds easy, but I know in an organization and a growing organization, that's a lot of really hard work. Can you tell us about when things don't go so right? Like if you're talking to another, I know you speak a lot, and probably should disclose, I also have been lucky enough to serve on your board of directors for the last 8 years. So we do have a relationship. We both iron sharpens iron, I think is the saying. But maybe if you reflect back to those moments where you thought maybe we have a challenge with organization structure or that handoff process, there's not enough resource that's getting handed to. Tell us about, like, if you were talking to another CEO, how do they know they've got an org design problem? Like, what are the symptoms you see in other people's organizations and your own around structuring incorrectly?
Can I be really candid? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
I mean, because it feels like a shit show. Because every day you walk into another painful situation. I mean, because people don't know, they don't understand, it's painful. And as a CEO or as a senior leader in the organization, you're constantly having to swoop in and solve problems that shouldn't be something you need to solve. Because from a senior leader's perspective, you think it's common sense. But when you come to like boots on the ground and the people that are doing the work, it's like, wait a minute, that's not my job. But we think they know that it is their job, but they don't think that it is. And it's like that area of responsibility is supposed to be over there, and they're supposed to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm supposed to do A, B, C. And there's just like that continuity doesn't exist, and that creates this chaos in the business. And so you walk in, and it's like, I've got my plan for the day, and I'm going to do these things, and then I'm not. I'm going to go put out a fire, and I'm going to go deal with this. I'm going to go do it's just, so it turns into this freaking chaos, and that's when you know it's like time to really evaluate responsibilities, whatever breaks down to. I mean, it's just like lack of clarity, like anything else in the world. Like when there is no clarity, it automatically creates chaos, and chaos means that none of us get to have a good day.
Yeah. The chaos. Well, that's pretty good. But how, so let's say you've walked in, the last couple of weeks have been a shit show, as you said, a terrible time thinking, hey, I've got an org design problem. Where do you even start? Like, how do you typically start the process of thinking about that over time? And what's worked really well? Like, what have you picked up from others or tried yourself and just said, like, this one thing is so meaningful to DIY org design in your own organization?
Yeah, well, I think the beautiful thing about business is so many problems have been solved already. We have to be humble enough to like be okay with the fact that somebody's already solved the problem, and we just need to shut up and listen instead of trying to do it ourselves. And that's been kind of the beauty of working with you and navigating through these situations, because what the fundamentals are that you start with the end in mind. What's the promise you're trying to deliver on, and how do you make that clear at each phase and each step along the way? And if you know the promise that you've made to your customer, and you know the people who are responsible for delivering components of that promise as it goes, then it becomes kind of an architectural problem within the organization. Who's going to be responsible for creating step one, step two, step three, whatever it may be? And then it becomes kind of a natural progression. But you have to be humble, and you have to want to solve the problem more than the current design of the organization, because as you scale the company breaks, and you have to recognize that because we did it yesterday doesn't mean that that's the right way or a good way to do it, and it requires a shift in order to scale it at a larger level. I mean, when you break it down, it's actually a little bit simple. That if you have a manufacturing line that is used to rolling out Model Ts to the tune of 10 a day, and you want to quadruple that, the same assembly line process can't be used in order to do that. You either have to have 4 assembly lines, or you change the assembly line process so that you can speed it up. And within the business, we aren't always good at recognizing that there's a time to stop, drop, and roll and change the way that we're doing things, so that we can shift and create those velocity opportunities. And so what's been kind of fun through this process for us over the years is that when we went from 25 cases today a day to 50 to 75 to 100 to 500 cases a day, I mean, the assembly line has to change, and you have to you have to accept the fact that the old ways are done and the new ways have to reign. And when you do that, then it helps you to have the right perspective to like, oh, time change, different areas of responsibility.
How do you think your team are going with that? So it sounds like you have been able to respond to these shifts in strategy and shifts in your
Mhm.
operating model. Do you think you now have a team around you that see the benefit of those changes, or is there still a bit of a, oh no, we're changing again, this is scary?
Yeah, well, I think that correlates to the pace of growth and the pace of change. The first major org design that we did was probably close to 14 or 15 years ago now, and people thought I was crazy. I mean, like I walked in and I was like, we're changing all of this. And they're like, dude, go back. smoke on whatever you were smoking and quit bothering us. But what it evolved into is that it allowed us to focus as an organization. And now we understand that growth equals change, and the change means that we have to adapt in order to serve the customer. And I think the thing that's important about it is that you realize that the promise to the customer is more important than the structure of the organization or the workflow of the organization. And when you get comfortable with the fact that our promise is more important than the way that we used to do it, then the team starts to accept responsibility for the need to change. But it took us 3 or 4 years to get comfortable with it. It was hard at first. They fought it, and then they didn't. Then they embraced it.
Is there anything in particular that you remember helping?
Grace. I think I mean, it started with grace. Like, this isn't going to be perfect. You know, when we have a concept, we're gonna implement the concept, and on paper it looks good. And I think what we did right is we said we don't think we're perfect in the way that this is going to roll out. So we need the team's feedback and we need customer feedback in order for us to know if what we are assuming to be the truth actually was the truth. And it wasn't. It was close, but it wasn't perfect. And so we as an organization adapted as we went along. And then when I think that what made it acceptable for our team was, and then when they showed us what we needed to do, we were able to adapt to it in a positive way. And that adaptation to the situation made it possible for the team to recognize that it was okay to make suggestions, and that we would respond to that. And I think it comes back to one of the fundamentals in business growth, that when you have good psychological safety in the business and people can communicate candidly about what's good and bad and otherwise, then it gives you permission to change the business on the fly and make those adaptations. And when you listen, people respect that.
Tom, it's super interesting. We chat about org design culture, or culture that lends to you being able to change the shape of your org to match the
Mhm.
internal and external needs of the business. And it sounds like you've gone on a bit of that journey. I know one of the other things that you've done is recently you released a book and you've been speaking on that a little bit. Was there any parts of the Adapt or Die, your new book, that you think kind of lend a hand to thinking about org design or the shape and structure of your organization, people, and resources in the right way?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, so the fundamental requirements of businesses today is adaptability. And if you refuse to respect market demands, customer requirements, and employee requirements, which, I mean, workforce challenges are one of the biggest challenges in the world today. And so if you refuse to respect the outside influence of those things, then the business is going to ultimately crumble. And so what I wrote about was the inherent requirement for businesses to recognize that it's more important to respect the truth, respect the facts, and adapt to those things in a positive way, be receptive to them, and then shift. And so many businesses think that because I've had 50 customers, 100 customers, 200 customers, 1,000 customers throughout my history, then I have permission, because I have all those customers, to demand the way that people are going to do work, or the way that people are going to respond to a product, or the way that people are going to buy. And that is no longer the truth. I mean, when you just look at the way that people as employees respond to the changes within an environment, they no longer respect somebody because they have been doing it for a long time, or because they have earned a certain role in an organization. They want someone who builds them up, who leads in a respectful way, and all of these things. So when you think about that in the lens of org design, it's, well, how do you create an environment that both facilitates success and value for the customer, but also creates value and life balance for the individual? And if you can't marry those two together, you're going to have internal competing priorities. Like if as an example, the only way that the customer can be successful is if the employee sacrifices their home life, you have conflicts, and you're never going to be successful in the environment. So if you can create the alignment in the business so that the customer succeeds at the same time that the employee succeeds, then you can accelerate and speed the business up. And that becomes a gift because everybody wins in that environment.
Yeah. Tom, that alignment for a lot of people seems elusive. How much time in a week as the CEO of 100 plus people do you spend thinking about kind of alignment and being agile as a business or being able to adapt?
Yeah, all of it. I mean, in some form or another, it kind of never ends because the world changes and technology changes and requirements change. In a practical sense, I would say that probably 5 to 25% of my week is listening to the challenges of workflow. And
Mm.
what does it mean to take away the resistance or the frustrations in workflow so that people can do their best work and be their best selves. And that's our job as a leader, is to take the resistance out of doing good work. I wrote about it in the book. One of the things I learned about a long time ago, and Tim, you helped me learn this, is at the end of the day, good people want to do good work. So get the hell out of their way. So create the workflows, create the structure so that good people can do good work. And fundamentally, that it's hard, but it's fun and it's exciting and it's challenging so that people can apply their talents and skills and proficiencies in a way that speeds the business up. And when you get that right, just get the hell out of their way and let them go.
Yeah. Well, we'll put the book, we've got the book link, we'll drop it in our show notes.
Yeah. Tom, you said you spend so much of your time thinking about these concepts in your business. I'd love
Mhm.
to know what makes you feel like you've got the confidence to make some of those decisions yourself within your business versus when are the times you feel like you need to get some expertise from outside?
Well, I think that businesses hit thresholds. That businesses hit thresholds over and over. And if you really study org design, which I can't say that I have, I've just had a good coach. But if you study org design, you recognize that organizations hit thresholds. And for us, it was 25 people, it was 40 people, it was around 75 people, and it was around 104 or 105 people. And when we hit those certain points, it was like, oh my gosh, the world is on fire. Things are not okay. Like workflows aren't happening. And you have to rethink the world in terms of how you're handling work handoffs or responsibilities, or you scaled to a point where the old way doesn't work anymore. And I think it's when you hit those thresholds, and as an organization, you have kind of internally, you have no expertise about how to go from 50 people to 75 people or 75 people to 105 people. Those thresholds create new sets of challenges that require new ways of thinking. And those are the times that I would recommend that you bring somebody else in who's helped to scale a business or who has seen a lot of it, that could maybe shine a new light on the challenges associated with it. Because as a business owner, it's hard. I mean, the blinders are on, and history has a place in our perceptions. And so if you don't have a fresh look at the way that you do things, you're actually going to hurt the organization. You're going to have some turnover and frustrations within the business that become very, very unhealthy. And change is hard, but the lack of change is harder when you hit those moments, and it can actually cost you the business or customers or employees that are really meaningful. And so you owe it to a team and to your customers to be willing to, like, well, we've got to rethink it.
So, for other CEOs like you who haven't had a really great coach or haven't got a clear team that can come in and help at those moments you need outside
Mhm.
help, what's
Mhm.
one skill you wish that you could wish upon them if you could?
Well, I actually, it wouldn't be a skill, it would be time. take the time to step away from the business and rethink the design. I mean, it's been pivotal for our business probably 4 times in our history of growth that if I wouldn't have intentionally stepped away from the business and rethought the way that workflows happened and expectations and things like that, that it would have broken our world. And so I think that what I would suggest for people who don't have the coach or the time or whatever the circumstances may be is force the pause, step away from the business. I mean, my living room was lined, like those great big like 3M like sticking on the wall that are like 2 feet by 3 foot or whatever they're like. My whole kitchen was lined with those things as I was rethinking or design. It was critical that I left the business and I went and looked at it through the lens of our customer, and that time away and the coaching that I received was critical. So what I would recommend is pause, use the tools, use capabilities and the knowledge that's now available. When I was trying to solve this problem 15 years ago for the first time, tools like functionally and org design tools, like they didn't exist, like they were not available to us. And if I could have like dragged and dropped it on my screen, that would have been such a gift. Instead, I drew like 18 copies of this stuff all over my kitchen, and my wife thought I was crazy. It's important to take the step back and to consider how it could be if you had to build it today. And looking at things through that lens gives you new gifts of workflows that you wouldn't realize otherwise.
So what's the radar? What is it they're feeling in them? What could you help them articulate to say, hey, this is that moment where you need to stop and
You need to pause.
you need to pause.
Yeah, it's tired. It's being tired of putting out the fires. It's like I'm walking into frustrations. Again, I'll be candid. It's like I'm dealing with bullshit inside the organization every day instead of focusing on my customers, instead of focusing on culture, instead of focusing on growing the business. Instead, I'm literally putting out internal fires every single day of this person can't get the work that they need, or they're missing the deadlines. All of that frustration that exists. It's like you can't control your day anymore, and when you lose control of your day as a leader, that means that you can't move the business forward. Therefore, you're letting the company down. And so you're just not doing what you're supposed to do as a leader. So when people feel that, or when they start to see it, I mean, I waited too long. I waited until the world was on fire. As soon as you see the smoke, pause.
Yeah, sounds good. So practically for that person,
Mhm.
what are some of the things you've considered when you've gone into that process?
Um,
What are your data points that you've gathered to help you sit there and take that break and step back and reorg?
Well, I think it starts with facts and separating the facts from the emotions. So many businesses respond to situations and frustrations through the lens of I'm pissed, I'm angry, I'm tired. When emotions and feelings step into it, it lowers our IQ. And so we have to take a step back and we have to say, well, what is the truth and what are the facts of the situation? So what has shifted, what's changed in terms of our volume, our velocity, our capabilities, our promises to our customers. And when those facts start to wane and the numbers start to tell a different story, then it's a good indicator that we need to change the design of the business to respect the numbers. And then once we understand the facts of the situation, then we have to take the time to understand the emotions. So how are people feeling about it? What are the frustrations and the concerns? But if we focus on the emotions first, then we step into making assumptions, and we're placating to individuals versus the facts of the situation, and it has the potential to take away the pain initially, but that doesn't mean that it's good org design. It doesn't mean that we're going to serve our customers the best. So starting with the facts and understanding the volume changes and then deal with the emotions and how people feel, and take the time to listen to your team, listen to your customers, what they like about your service delivery and not. And when we look at it through that lens, it helps us to see the truth. And one of my favorite things to say is that you have to love the truth even when you don't like it. And in terms of customer feedback and employee feedback, it's absolutely critical.
Yeah. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a privilege, your time, your humility to chat to us about JMARK. And we will pop in the show notes your new book you've just released, Adapt or Die, and I know you're enjoying speaking about that in and around the US. I haven't been able to get Tom across to Australia yet, so if there's someone that wants to bring Tom down to talk about the great company he's built, it'd be great to bring him out here and show him the kangaroos and koalas. We believe there's no perfect org, but listening to each other, learning from other leaders and other people that have done it before us, like you said, Tom, I think is a great takeaway from this call, and just continuing to evolve our skills and working out how to build adaptable organizations that are really well aligned, so that we can have organizations that we lead and look after that are the best places to work, just like JMARK. So we really appreciate you joining us on the call. Thank you for your time. I know it's probably like middle of the night US time, and we're in daytime in Australia right now. So thanks for coming on the show. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person soon.
Yeah, thanks for letting me be a part of it. And if I can help in any way, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah. Amy, as always, amazing co-host. Amy Springer really leads the podcast and our content efforts and our community.
All right.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Tom.
Thanks. See ya.